Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Hello there. It's another Thursday afternoon on Leadership Transition. You welcome to Money Radio. My name is Winnie for the and show is good to be hosting you on today's edition of the program. And with me in the studio is our usual guest, in-house analyst, Inse Anthony. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, boss. It's a pleasure.
So how have you been? Obviously, we are looking at tackling the rising incidence of electricity theft and the impact on the industry. The Nigerian Electricity Supply Industry has been so much under pressure to meet its obligations to the operators and consumers as well. However, the one major factor impacting the industry is electricity theft, and it's been addressed for optimal performance in the industry. We are going to its edition of Money Radio, and of course, it's energy to offset. Now, Inset, before we start and delve into the program, what is electricity for energy?
Simply put, we would say that electricity is making use of electricity illegally without paying for it. And how does this in Nigeria, we see this mainly by electricity consumers, whether they are those who are, it's mainly from those who are metered, and then rather than consuming electricity directly from their meters, they remove and do some illegal hookups directly, and so they consume electricity, but it's not being reflected on their meters. So they're actually consuming, but they are not paying.
It's what you call a bypass.
Yes.
So
You
just bypass
bypass the meter and connect directly to the source, and you're enjoying electricity.
I had an experience of it. Let me just get a story. About a few years ago, anyway, a neighbor of mine, a barrister by the way, told me that is what she's doing. You know, a lot of Nigerians indulge in this bypass electricity theft. She told me that something they do. I said, no, we can't do that. After then, electricity was still fairly relatively cheap.
Yeah,
She laughed that there's nothing to eat, and I said, no, please, I'm not comfortable with it. And I had to even, call the landlord to intimate him that, look at what my neighbor is planning to do. He said, what? They not to me that she still went ahead to do it. I had come home one day, I met that some of the electrical appliances, so we're working, I said, no. I raised the alarm and she laughed and told me that, oh, actually she brought in somebody to do it. The person did not do it well. She's going to call the person to leave it.
Yes, you find out that a lot of people, and not just when we're talking of many people, not just the ordinary consumers.
Yes.
Most of the people who do this bypass, they are also very highly placed. You know that one thing with electricity theft, this bypass of a thing, is that it is only those who are caught that will be brought to justice.
Yes.
And many of these big compounds.
And at the time we're paying 2,000 naira tariff.
Yes, many of these big, so-called big people within the system, their compounds are so secured that nobody can go in there to find out whether are they really paying, are they using the electricity legally, or have they done some bypass or some illegal connections here and there, whereby what they are consuming, some of them, they have electric fences, they have dogs, they have so many security apparatus that no electric electricity distribution official will be able to walk into their compound to assess what they are using and how they are using. And a lot of them get away with these things.
Yes, but we didn't get away with it anyway. Incidentally, our house is close to a NEPA office.
Yes.
then
AEDC.
an AEDC office. And it so happened that they were going in one of their rounds to check compounds. Yes, there are times they make announcement that they will be checking from house to house. As at that time, we even had two big dogs in the compound. So this new neighbor anyway, because the old one had already passed. You see why somebody committed an offense and another person, innocent person, was not made to pay for it. Because by the time they came to the compound, my neighbor, they were around. And me, I was at work. So they noticed. They just noticed that there was diapers. And they find us that we're supposed to pay some hefty amount of money.
Yes, that is what
They
happened.
caught it and they said, no, you must pay. It was quite a lot.
That's what happens when
So they're no longer doing it because they used to carry out inspection.
like I've just told you now, they go to where they can go to. But it's not
compound, it's really secured compound house, but they
it,
were doing it.
yes.
Even with police, I think police used to come with them on such runs.
Yeah, we'll still get round to looking at how this can be cut. So if looking more at this issue of electricity theft or bypass, it's a really big issue impacting not just on the entire value chain, but when you look at it, the impact is mainly borne by the distribution companies because they are at the tail end of the tripod of the power operation tripod, and they interface directly with the consumers. So they are supposed to get the bill from the consumers and then pay all through the value chain. But where they fail to do this, it means that they have the entire production generation of electricity by the discos, the transmission, all of them, they don't get paid, and the entire system suffers. In fact, as we speak, the Association of Distribution Companies in Nigeria, they have put it that up to 30 billion, 30 billion naira of their revenue monthly is lost to electricity theft in form of bypass, then vandalism, and then to vandalism and then to theft of their appliances. So this is huge. And also the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission has said that 25% of the electricity that is generated is lost.
25%.
25%.
I was actually coming to that to ask you the value of this
The
electricity.
25% of the electricity that is generated, that is wheeled out for distribution, is actually lost to energy theft. So this is really huge, and it's something that impacts not just on the distribution companies, even though they are made to bear the brunt. It's something that trickles down to the entire value chain.
Yes, it does because I spoke with some there are reports these producers, local producers of these meters, and they also complain bitterly about it. That is one of the factors that is impacting them negatively. This electricity tech. Now, we also see situations whereby even those that are not metered, we see them connected. There's a way they do connect. They are also guilty of this electricity tech. Don't you think?
Yeah, of course, they are guilty, but because they are not metered in the first instance.
So I've seen situations whereby somebody will carry a ladder, climb electric pole, and he's fixing, or whatnot.
Yes, but because they are not metered in the first instance, so it means that they are actually consuming the power for free. But then let me say, for them, it's not completely free. In fact, those who are unmetered are to a large extent bearing the brunt for this the huge electricity theft. Let's look at a scenario. What happens now is that the distribution company allocates electricity to certain areas, and then it expects that it should get commensurate revenue for those for the power that is allocated to these areas. And then let's say for instance here in Abuja it has given Gwaripa um, 50 million worth of electricity. He has given the central area, let's say 100 million worth of electricity. And then those who are metered, they only account for, let's say in Guarifana, they only account for like 10 million. And 50
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Welcome back. This is Energy Focus on Money Radio, reaching your leadership television. I want to apologize sincerely for bringing the program a bit behind schedule because of just circumstances beyond our control. But we're here now, and before we went on break, we're talking about tackling the electricity, the high incidence of electricity theft and impact on the industry. Even the studio has been an in-house analyst. She's also the business editor of leadership newspaper Insect Anthony Uko. Thank you so much. Yes. Before we went on break, we were looking at how this can be addressed and why for optimal performance in the industry. But before we talk about that, I want you to quickly give us the impact on the whole value chain in the industry.
Yeah, the one of the biggest problem facing the electricity distribution value chain right now is that of the illiquidity. They don't have enough money. The distribution the the distribution companies, they hardly are able to collect enough money to pay for the electricity that is being distributed. And how does this affect others? Once energy is required, gas is required, a lot of input goes into the generation of electricity, and all of including procuring gas, and all of this has to be paid for. And many of these um, inputs, they come with high-end contracts, which means they have to be paid or the supply is cut off, and whereby they are not able to generate enough whereby they are not able to get enough money from power that has been distributed. They can't pay for gas. They can't pay for maintenance of infrastructure. They can't do so many other things that would be needed to do. Many of the investment commitments that would be needed to keep the power distribution, the entire power value chain working optimally. And so the federal government has pumped in a lot of subsidies, a lot of money interventions to keep the power sector going. But yet, Nigeria is still not able to generate enough. It's been hovering um, around 4,000 megawatts, despite the huge investment. And this is because people are consuming and they are not paying for it. When the energy is like using all one's investment to go into a business, and then after doing all the business and taking it to meet the people who should buy those services or goods and services and pay for it, so that you can get the money, go back and continue the process. You take it to the market and people collect it without paying for it. It means that before you know it, that particular business person will run out of money to continue that business. And that's why the electricity value chain have not